I think one of the things that business owners can do just practically
Mhm.
to kind of begin to cultivate more of an investor mindset is
Mhm.
to really focus on in your business. You're operating your business, you're running your business, but focus
Mhm.
on pragmatic solutions and decision making rather than dogmatic solutions and decision making. And what I mean by that is pragmatic solutions, solutions that are actually going to solve a problem in the best possible way
Mhm.
rather than, well, we're going to do this just because it's the way I've always done it. Right. Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Own the Exit. I'm Caleb. I'm here in the studio with Aaron. What's up, Aaron?
How's it going, Caleb? Good to be here. Another episode of Own the Exit.
Yeah, man, I'm really enjoying doing this podcast.
It's fun.
We landed top 40 in the entrepreneurship category
We
in
did.
the U.S.
We did somehow. We clawed our way.
Somehow we have clawed our way into the top 40. And so we're really grateful for those of you who have liked and shared and left us reviews on iTunes and Spotify. It means a lot to us. If you haven't done that, go ahead and do that
Would
now.
appreciate that. Yep.
We were joking before this how we're number one podcast in the Solomon Islands. That's an unverifiable fact, but we thought it'd be cool to say that.
Yeah. Until somebody disputes that, we'll go with that.
And that's
I've
kind
never
of
been to the Solomon Islands, and I probably can't find it easily
on
a
the map.
But we're number one there.
They're
in all genres.
It's in the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah. The
Also,
Pacific Ocean is a big place.
It's a big place. Hawaii's also in the Pacific Ocean. You're going there in a couple of months,
I am.
right? Yeah.
I'm going to be in Hawaii.
For how long?
Working remote. I'll be there for a month.
Working remote from Hawaii.
The whole family.
For a month. 5 kids, the wife, posted up on the beach.
Absolutely.
Living the dream.
I'll be living the dream.
Living the dream.
I'll be working.
You can hook up with Brandon Turner while you're there?
I should.
Yeah.
I think he's on a different island. He's in Maui, but
okay.
I'll be on the other island. But no, it'll be fun.
Man.
The time zone difference is perfect because I can get up, start work at 5 in the morning, and it's 9 in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So when everyone else is starting the day.
Only weird people like entrepreneurs like us and the people listening would say, man, it's so awesome that I could get up at 5 a.m. and start working.
Well, the awesome part is, and I think everyone would agree with this, I'll be done working at 9 in the morning.
Yeah. So your boys are up, make breakfast, have breakfast with your family, and then just go chill on the beach, hike, do whatever.
Surf, eat food, relax.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
That'll be cool, man. That's so good. That's so great. Dude, I was thinking for this episode, I'd love to talk about, Hawaii and all those other things, but really something that adds value to our listeners. I was having a conversation with some actually a new fund manager that we were onboarding into our fund platform, right? And they were talking about how elusive the fourth quadrant of wealth generation has been for them, and how
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Rich Dad Poor Dad, exactly. And we even referenced that at the beginning of every single episode in our,
we've all read the book.
Intro. Everyone who listens to this has probably read Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? And it really is cool, like those 4 quadrants that Robert Kiyosaki outlines in that book. He even had a follow-up book that was literally just about these quadrants, this concept. But it's called, I think, Cash Flow Quadrants or something like that. But the 4 quadrants are this, for those that either don't remember or don't know. The first is an employee, right? You have a job. Then the second quadrant is self-employed, which means now you own a job. Both of those, you're still working for money, right? Then there's business owner. And a lot of our listeners are business owners, right? But the business owner now owns a system, right? But they still have to manage people. They still have to actually, there's still, it's like a hybrid of money working for you and you working for money, right? You own a system, but you still got to manage that system and operate, make sure that it's operating. And then there's the fourth quadrant, which is the investor, right? The investor quadrant. And most entrepreneurs, honestly, fail at accessing that fourth quadrant, which is the one that Robert Kiyosaki says is the kind of linchpin, the key to building wealth, like actual wealth, like truly becoming rich. And I think about this, how in 2023, the CEO of Coca-Cola made about $23 million. That's pretty good, right?
Mhm.
Like I don't think anyone would complain
Yeah,
about a
I only
20.
made 22 million last year.
Exactly. So he beats you by 1 milli. But the yeah, but Warren Buffett, who's been a shareholder in Coca-Cola for decades,
Mhm.
just in dividends alone made over 200 million.
Right.
And he never had
That's
to show
cool.
up to the office one time. He never was in a
Mhm.
board. I mean, he maybe showed up for board meetings as a big share, but like he made 10 times the amount of money as the highest paid, you know, person responsible for the entire operations of the company,
Yeah.
right? Because, and you might say, well, that's because Warren Buffett's been investing for decades and for a long time and years and years and years.
That's
Like,
the point.
well, that's the point is he's
Yeah.
had an investor mindset
Mhm.
since the very beginning and
Yeah.
understood the long-term value. If you want to 10x your freedom,
Mhm.
your financial position, then
Mhm.
you've got to unlock the fourth quadrant at a mindset level,
Mhm.
at least early on. If you're going to be, so
Yeah.
you can't just operate as a business owner. You have to begin to operate in your business
No,
with the
that's
mindset of an investor.
I forget some of the kind of the quadrants on that too, but I'm trying to remember if it's like successive, like I know for my own journey, like I started out as an employee. I think my first job was working at Pizza Hut. I was like washing
Yeah.
dishes and stuff.
Yeah.
And then, I eventually like started a business and then but I was the only employee, right?
Yeah.
Like
So you were self-employed. You owned a job.
self-employed, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, and so and then gradually built a business with
Yeah.
employees and am an investor in some ways, but to get to that point where I'm fully an investor,
Mhm.
I don't know if you jump to that spot right away, or is there like a process where
Yeah, I
you
mean,
work your way to that point, right?
yeah, I think obviously like everyone needs to start out just working,
Mm-hmm.
like even if it is self-employed. Like I started working self-employed. I've had jobs, I've had W2 jobs. I'm not, but I started my first business when I was 11 and
Mm-hmm.
I knew that owning a business and being self-employed and being kind of responsible and in control of my time and that was going to break a glass ceiling for me. I
Yeah.
knew that early on. um, but I think along the journey you realize you have to, even as a business owner, if your business is going to grow to a point where it's going to actually be what we are doing this podcast for, something that you can actually pull away from and not have to actively be involved in,
Mm-hmm.
then at some point you're going to have to think like an investor. And I think,
So you always have that mindset, right?
right. So
Like
you
even
want
if
to
you're
have,
not like I
yeah,
remember working at Pizza Hut dreaming about being an
yeah,
investor,
yeah.
owning real estate.
How cool
I
would it
was
be to own
15.
this Pizza Hut?
Yeah, no, I had thoughts like that.
Yeah,
And then I was like, man, if the guy that then they have another Pizza Hut and another one, another one.
yeah,
Like, how many Pizza Huts do you need to have to make X amount? Like
yeah.
just thinking that way.
Do you remember when we had William Hollis? We had
Yeah, yeah, I
Hollis on
remember
the
that guy.
show, and
Yeah.
he talked about Mr. Carter, his landlord, what got him on
Yeah.
into real
It
estate.
provoked
He
him.
said Mr. Carter would show up
Uh-huh.
and he would open his wallet and I'd see a stack of $100 bills and I'd be like,
Rent
man, I
day.
want to be like Mr. Carter one day,
Exactly.
right? And so like it's just when you kind of see how the person who's the investor mindset, it's just a different mindset. And I think one of the things that business owners can do just practically
Mm-hmm.
to kind of begin to cultivate more of an investor mindset is
Mm-hmm.
to really focus on in your business. You're operating your business, you're running your business, but focus
Mm-hmm.
on pragmatic solutions and decision making rather than dogmatic solutions and decision making. And what I mean by that is pragmatic solutions that are actually going to solve a problem in the best possible way
Mm-hmm.
rather than, well, we're going to do this just because it's the way I've always done it. Right. So, what are your thoughts on that? Just share a little bit
I
of insight on
mean,
that.
yeah, I think that's human nature in a lot of ways to really just get into like your rut,
Hmm.
of like it's everything from like the food you eat to the clothes you wear to,
Yeah.
it's like somebody who's like, you see it with elderly people who are rocking the same hairstyle and clothes that were cool when they were 30, right? Because they
Yeah.
just got stuck
Yeah.
in that,
Yeah.
or technology where we don't adapt. But
Yeah.
I think, always trying to 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 be adaptable and to be able to pivot. And I think, especially if your business becomes more established too,
Hmm.
then even if you have
Yeah.
like, let's say you had the same business for a while, it's different when you're a startup because everything is like exploratory and
Mhm.
ever changing. But I think if
Yeah.
you've had a business for a little while, like even
Yeah.
5 years or so,
Mhm.
you just kind of get, well, this is the way we do it, and even if
Yeah.
it's not like the greatest way,
Right.
it's almost just easier than to just like overhaul it,
Right.
even though long term it will be better.
Right. So thinking like a business owner then, and that would be like just not an investor, just thinking like a business owner. That's why you sort of default to more dogmatic decision making over time, because in order to be pragmatic, you have to sign up for more work in the short term. And you're
Hmm.
already like working really hard and your team's already working really hard and you guys are having success and all that kind of stuff. But it's like to say, to be able to prioritize, how can we improve this system and make it
Hmm.
more efficient? How can we improve this aspect of our business and reduce costs? How can we, all those different kinds of things,
Hmm.
that requires pragmatic thinking. And that by nature means you're going to sign up for more work in the short term.
Well, and then when you get into quadrant three too, like you
Uh huh.
mentioned, when you just own a system, you do
Yeah.
have a job at that point, and it's
Yeah.
it's it's refining that system.
And managing that
If
system.
you're in quadrant two though, and you're working a full time job inside your business, it's hard to work on it
Yeah. Yeah.
because you don't have the time, or maybe
Yeah.
just work evenings and weekends on the
Yeah.
business, you know. But
Yeah.
but I
Exactly.
like being in the quadrant three, which to me is actually a full time job.
Yeah.
Quadrant three,
Yeah. It
it's
is.
like being a CEO,
Yeah.
where that type of role where you're still very involved though,
Yeah.
in working, but you're able to make those refinements and tweaks, and also getting like new people on the team or like outside. Like I recently hired like a fractional CFO
Hmm.
who is remote,
Yeah.
and he's coming in and looking at all the different entities that I have and different things and just like shredding everything,
Yeah.
right? Very objectively. And he doesn't
Yeah.
know the story behind it. He's not emotionally attached. He's
Yeah.
very pragmatic. And
Yeah.
he's like, hey, these are what the numbers are. And like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, this is really good, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not like, I think a lot of times too, as business owners, we can allow like ego to get involved,
Oh,
like
yeah.
our own ego. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like sometimes we do it intentionally, like, or intentionally, or where it's like a fault, where it's like
Right.
we want to have control, or we
Mhm.
want to be known as the guy who built this, or we want to get the credit, or things like that, where
Mhm.
that's like, in my mind, that's like a fault.
Right.
But then there's the other kind of ego, or where it's kind of like, not it's more like the processes are
Yeah.
built around
The
the business
personality.
founder or the personality. Both of
Mhm.
those are dysfunctional because what you just said, like
Yeah.
you can't be dogmatic because
Mhm.
you can't be pragmatic because
Yeah.
you're stuck. I think in all the nitty gritty, and like I like to be able to ideally step out of that,
Yeah.
you know. And that's why
Yeah.
this CFO that we have, he's not in our world, and
Yeah.
so he's able to look from the outside and bring a lot of clarity. And I have to like humbly submit, like I don't have to do everything he says,
Yeah.
but I can listen and be like, that's a different perspective, and like maybe I do need to change this or whatever. and
Yeah.
and so
I think, yeah, and just like you said with the CFO, like I just onboarded an assistant for some social media stuff and different things like that. His name's Ian, and going through, doing that onboarding process
mm,
with Ian, getting him, started and up and going, I realized like so many of the quote systems for
hmm
the tasks that I'm offloading to him, so many of those systems are just in my head,
hmm
and having to go through the process of actually getting those systems and putting them on paper and all that kind of
it's a
stuff.
lot of work.
It's a lot of work to do that. And it's like,
It's just easier to do it
sometimes it's just
yourself.
easier. I'll just do this, but then it limits the growth potential. So I think, if I'm looking at, just in my own journey and lessons learned, if I'm wanting to move to more pragmatic thinking, which ultimately is thinking more like an investor,
hmm
because investors think more about outcomes and
hmm
timelines, not,
hmm
how hard is this going to be in the immediate, because they have
hmm
more of a long-term mentality,
yeah.
right? An investor thinks, how is this thing going to be 10 times more valuable 10 years from now?
hmm
Right? Rather than thinking, well, how can we just continue to
hmm
sustain the little bit of success that we have right now? Right? They're
hmm
always looking at growth and expansion and improving and lowering
hmm
costs and expenses and everything like that. And so when, onboarding Ian, you know, kind of helped me to see, hey, an actual real practical tip is You just need to document all of the systems of your business.
Mhm.
That's step number one. Document all of the different systems of your business so that you can see them on paper. And now you can actually objectively look at those and say, are these actually the most efficient way to do this?
Mhm. Yeah.
And then it allows you to be able to train other people to do and run those systems because they're not just in your head as the business
Mhm.
owner, right? And I'm talking every single system.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love doing that with on whiteboards with the team members that are involved in that aspect of the
Yeah.
business or the
Mhm.
and I like doing it kind of where there's no such thing as like ideas. I think when it comes to ideas,
Mhm.
we can get very emotionally attached or it's like, well, that
Yeah.
was my idea.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't work out, then you're like offended or
Yeah.
you're like, but it's like, it was just an idea though.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
ideas are just concepts.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter who came up with it. It doesn't, it's, so I think when you can hold everything like suspect,
Yeah.
like every process, every system, even the team members, even like
Yeah.
myself
Yeah.
included, even like, am I even in the right role? Am I even adding value? Like
Mhm.
everything to be just like held openly
Yeah.
so that everyone's like in the right place. Everyone's like, I feel like able to grow, able to flourish, not like hindered with like dysfunction.
Mhm.
And so I think like we'll get whiteboards out and we'll be like, hey,
Yeah.
how do we like refine this? And like maybe I'm the one that said we
Yeah.
should do it this way, but like I always need to be holding that lightly too, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a culture of like you can try something and it might not work out, but that's
Yeah.
okay because like we have to try it
Yeah.
and then
It's like classic
collaborative.
Yeah, it's classic Thomas Edison, right? It's like he tried to invent the light bulb and everyone was like, "Oh man, like all this wasted time." He's like, "No,
Yeah.
I just learned 1,000 different ways to not make a light bulb."
Right.
Right? This is how you don't do it.
Yeah.
And then those are valuable lessons learned. So I was thinking about I can't even remember the book now. I think it's like Creativity Inc.
Yeah.
By the founder of Pixar.
Okay. Yeah.
And one of the things he says in that book that stood out to me when I read it was, you are not your idea.
Mm-hmm.
And if business owners can really adopt that mindset of understanding you are not your idea,
Mm-hmm.
which means that if your idea fails, so what?
Yeah, it was just an idea.
You just have more ideas. And just keep coming up with ideas, pragmatic solutions to real everyday problems that are, and that. So I think the whole crux or whole summary, I guess, of this episode is thinking like an investor. Step number one
Yeah.
is really focusing on pragmatic solutions within your business
Mhm.
rather than kind of
Mhm.
dogmatically just repeating the same things that you've always done.
Yeah.
That's how an investor thinks. And if you can elevate your investor mindset, then you can kind of step into that investor quadrant, right?
Yeah, and even if you're working at Pizza Hut,
Yeah.
you still can have that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
and you're not there.
But the truth
But-
is, right, that mindset is not going to make you wealthy.
Mhm.
It's going to give you what you need to then actually take the action necessary. So it's important to not stop at the mindset and just keep working at Pizza Hut because then it just becomes dreaming aimlessly,
Mhm.
right? It's like at some point you actually have to take action. You actually have to invest to become
Yeah.
an investor, rather
no,
than just thinking
absolutely.
about it. Yeah.
No, it's good stuff, man.
Absolutely, man. Well, I think we're probably good for this episode,
Yeah.
right? I think we've
Drop
covered a
some
lot
knowledge.
of stuff. Yeah.
No,
drop
I'm
some
excited to go and get my whiteboard out and start tearing
Yeah.
through some
Mapping.
ideas, shredding some of my ideas and refining them and
mapping processes, shredding processes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thanks, everybody,
Yeah,
for joining
awesome.
us for another episode of Own the Exit. It's been great.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.